All right, today we're going to talk about the shifts of the demand curve. So this is a topic that I really need everyone to make sure you're focusing on and listening as I go through this in the screencast. Make sure that you're jotting down the notes, but not just writing in and filling in the blanks. Um, really listening and taking it in, because this is where I lose students. And if you don't have this part down going forward with the rest of supply and demand, it's really going to make your life a little bit difficult leading to that final exam. So as we go through this, please listen, and as you go through the worksheets in class together, make sure we're asking questions on anything that just doesn't quite make sense. All right, just kind of think of it as like a math topic or a new type of something you're doing new in math, where if you don't get it and you try to go on to the next step, that next step just doesn't make sense. Okay, so the shifts of the demand curve. The first thing we're looking at is how the shift of the demand curve represents a change in the amount of people at every price. All right, so very important words here. At every price. Let's go ahead and circle those, okay, or underline it just so that you really focus in on that. When the demand curve moves, when it shifts to the right or it shifts to the left, that means more people either want that product or less people want that product, regardless of what the price is. At every price, demand is changing. All right, the confusion comes in here when we start talking about what is a change in quantity demanded. A movement along the demand curve is caused by a price change. So yesterday I kept focusing on, at the beginning of class, I said when you see that word quantity, you got to think of the word price. All right, so make sure that you go ahead and circle these two words so that you constantly see those words going together. All right, if there's any time we're talking about a change in quantity demanded, it's always being caused by a change in price. Versus the next part is just a change in overall demand. This is where we're talking about the entire curve is shifting, either to the right or to the left. All right, so take a look at this. If we look at this chart over here on the side of your notes, okay, if you see that movement, we're going from a point on the curve to another point on the curve. As I went up that curve, all right, I moved along that curve from one point to the next, all right, my price went up and my quantity demanded decreased. All right, so I can see that if I go down the curve, my price goes down, my quantity demanded increase. So that word quantity is only caused by a change in price. So when price changes, the key is it's a movement along the curve, which we call a change in quantity demanded. Now when one of these shifters, which we're going to talk about the rest of this notes, is the shifters that cause a change in overall demand. So when there's a shift in demand, the entire curve changes. We see that with an increase to the right or a decrease to the left. Now check this out. If there's an increase or decrease, this point on that curve, this point on this curve, let's say this is all $5. All right, regardless, we have an increase or a decrease in price, the price is still $5. So price change did not cause that change in demand. All right, so here's the things that cause changes in demand. The first one, and we're going to use the acronym MERIT, M-E-R-I-T. The first one is market size. So just like it says, the number of consumers either goes up or down. All right, so market size, think of, I always use Route 59. 15 years ago, it was two-lane road probably, a lot of farm fields. The market size increases. So what happened to the demand around there when the market size increases? You need stores, you need restaurants, you need gas stations. All these things happened because of the market size. You could also think of the market size as a group of people that the producer didn't try to sell to before. All right, when I was a kid, video games were basically for kids. All right, now video games are made for everybody. All right, adults, young, old. You got teenage games, kids games, adult games, all kinds of stuff. So the market size for video games has grown, causing an increase in demand for video games. And here's just some visuals. Again, I'm with supply and demand. I really like trying to use the arrows just to kind of talk yourself through the examples. All right, if this goes up, all right, does it go up or down in demand? Does our quantity demand go up or down? Does our overall demand go up or down? All right, so just simply if the number of consumers is up, the amount of demand is going to go up. If the number of consumers or market size decreases, the amount demanded is going to decrease. All right, expectations. So when I look at expectations, a higher or lower future price. So we're looking at how is it going to impact current demand. Okay, so when there's an increase in price or a decrease in price down the road, so a month from now, 2 months from now, whatever it is, how is that going to impact current demand? Well, we know what's going to happen. So like the first scenario says, if the future price is going to be higher, current demand will what? Well, if I know I can get if the price is going to be higher down the road, a month from now, I want to buy it now. So my current demand will increase. If the future price is going to be lower, now my current demand will decrease because I'm going to wait and buy that product when the price is lower. I don't want to buy the product now. So when we're looking at the expectations, you're always looking at, okay, how is this future price going to impact our current demand for a good or service? The next one is prices of related goods. So we're using the word price, so don't get confused here. If I'm looking at just the specific price of a good, how does that impact the quantity demanded for that good? Now we're going to look at how does the price of one good impact the demand of another good. All right, so this is where, again, one of those topics where sometimes students will get confused. Let's go through these notes, and then we're going to have multiple ways we're going to apply this information to a couple different worksheets in class. So complements, obviously, are things that go together. All right, how the use of one product increases the use of another. That is what we call a complement. All right, so think of a complement when we talk about prices. So here's my example, hot dogs and hot dog buns. So just talk it through. If the price of hot dogs drops, more people are going to buy hot dogs, which obviously means if you're buying more hot dogs, you're going to buy hot dog buns. So the price of the hot dogs going down increases the quantity demanded for hot dogs, but increases the overall demand for hot dog buns. Regardless of the hot dog buns prices, you're going to probably buy more hot dog buns. That's why we call it a change in demand for the hot dog buns. You can think of another example on your own. It might be, sandwich stuff, things that go together, whatever it is. All right, think of two complements, things that if the price of one will increase or decrease the demand of the other. Substitutes, obviously, are things that don't go together. Okay, goods or services that can be used in place of other goods and services. All right, so here's my example for this one. Now this is the one where, again, you got to talk yourself through the scenario to really make it make sense. Because now we're talking about how the original price impacts, the original item's price impacts the substitute's demand. All right, so what are two things that don't go together? Coke versus Pepsi, Adidas versus Nike, maybe Samsung versus iPad or iPhones. Okay, so think about that. All right, if the price of Coke goes up, if the price of Coca-Cola goes up, my quantity demanded for Coca-Cola goes down, which means my overall demand for something that is a substitute of Coca-Cola, let's say Pepsi, will go up because fewer people are buying Coca-Cola, so more people are going to buy Pepsi. All right, so substitutes are a little bit more tricky. You just got to kind of talk yourself through it to say, okay, is this a substitute or a complement? If the demand are going up of both and the demand is going down of both, then it's a complement. If they're moving in opposite directions, then they're going to be substitutes. All right, our next one is income. Income is obviously the amount people earn and how it affects the amount you will spend, right? So obviously if the more money you make, the more you're probably going to spend. The less money you make, the less you're going to spend. So typically what we identify it as I make more money, my overall demand increases. If I make less money, my overall demand decreases. All right, so we want to put this into two ways though. There's two types of income, the way it impacts our overall demand. We have normal goods, which are those typical goods that when I make more money, I want to buy more of them. We call those normal goods. All right, so my example would be, think of groceries. All right, I like steak. All right, it's always usually pretty expensive if you want a good piece of steak. So as I make more money, I'll probably end up buying more steak. All right, I'll throw it on the grill and have it for dinner more often. So I would consider that a normal good. The unique thing about this one is what's a normal good for you might not be a normal good for me. If you're a vegetarian, steak is not a normal good. You're not going to buy it regardless. All right, so this one can kind of apply differently from person to person, but generally we can figure out as a market, more likely people will buy things like steak, good food, good meats if they're making more money. On the opposite, we have inferior goods. So these are the things that we don't want to buy as much when we make more money. So if I make more money, I buy fewer inferior goods. So the opposite of steak, maybe spam. All right, I'm not going to buy spam if I'm making more money. I want to buy spam regardless, but just making that comparison to, a normal good, something that's like steak, compared to an inferior good, something maybe like spam. And now remember, the opposites are true as well. If I'm making less money, I'm going to buy fewer normal goods and buy more inferior goods because my amount of income is going down. So that would play into this as well. All right, so again, everybody has different tastes or different idea of what a normal good and an inferior good would be. Normal goods you might look at as your name brand goods versus inferior goods being your knockoff brands and stuff like that. Okay, maybe your normal good is your Fruit Loops, and then your inferior good is Aldi's Fruity-O's or whatever they call them there. And the last one is taste. So this is the T in merit. So taste is the popularity of a good or service, and it's just simply that. The more popular a good is or service is, the greater the demand will be. The lower the popularity or taste is, the less the demand will be. So demand will go up with popularity and down with popularity. I think that one's probably pretty self-explanatory. There's not much to go off on that one. So as we look at those, you might look at something like certain goods out there, or tastes or styles that are popular now that weren't popular before, or were popular before, are not popular now, and that's why we call this taste and how it affects our overall demand. All right, so Alex Schott used to rock this great haircut back in the day. Unfortunately, it just hasn't come back yet, and I don't know if it ever will. All right, Lorelei. All right, I know you're listening. I think you should try rocking the big hair. I don't know if that's going to ever make a comeback. And we got to pick on one more person. Let's pick on Caleb Hayes. Caleb Hayes needs to bring back this look. All right, and see if he can get this haircut to come back in style. I don't know. All three of these probably are no longer in demand, nor will they may never be in demand ever again. So there's your causes of shifts of the demand curve. Remember, it's merit, M-E-R-I-T, market size, expectations, related goods, income, and tastes. All right, now we're going to work on applying this information to some worksheets.